So, you're in your 40s, 50s, maybe even your 60s. Life has taught you things. You've been through heartbreak, reinvention, triumph, and silence. You carry weight in your voice now, the kind that doesn't need to shout. And then suddenly, she appears. Youthful, radiant, full of energy you haven't felt in years. She smiles, laughs at your jokes, and holds eye contact a little too long. And something stirs. Not lust exactly, though that's part of it. It's something older. You feel alive again. Like a part of you you'd quietly buried starts reaching for the surface. And this feeling is where most men begin to unravel. Not because there's something wrong with the attraction, but because of what that attraction triggers. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift. You start bending. Not physically, but energetically. You start recalibrating yourself, less from power, more from a quiet insecurity that says, I need to adapt to keep this. And that's when the descent begins. There's this trap most older men don't even realize they're falling into. It's not obvious, like buying gifts or flattering too much. It's more insidious. It's trying to become palatable, to adjust your pace, your rhythm, your interests, even your tone, just enough to appear in sync with her. But what happens in the process is that you begin erasing the very thing she was drawn to. Your difference, your presence, your seasoned stillness. She may not consciously notice it at first. But women, especially younger ones, have a deep sensitivity to energy. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel when a man is rooted and when he's subtly contorting himself for approval. And once she senses that shift, once she sees you trying to fit in, rather than remain still in your world, something inside her goes cold, not out of malice, but instinct. Because attraction, true attraction, is built on polarity, not similarity. And the moment you become familiar, predictable, overly accommodating, the spark flickers. The strength of an older man isn't in his ability to mimic youth. It's in his refusal to abandon maturity. The calm confidence of someone who's failed, rebuilt, walked alone and come back stronger. That's what captivates. Not knowing her trends, not matching her slang, but standing firm while she orbits. That stillness, that's masculine gravity. And the moment you relinquish it to seem relatable, you turn from a mountain into a mirror, and mirrors don't hold attention for long. There's also something many older men mistake for an emotional connection. She opens up, maybe about her past, maybe about how boys her age never get her. She tells you things that feel raw, and it touches you. You want to protect, to listen, to be her safe space. You start answering late-night texts. You talk her down from panic attacks. You give her emotional shelter. And somewhere in your mind, you believe this vulnerability is weaving the two of you together. But there's a difference between being present and being porous. What starts as empathy can quickly become absorption. And when you begin absorbing what isn't yours, her chaos, her confusion, her wounds, you step out of the masculine, not because care is weak, but because caretaking without discernment becomes self-betrayal. And more than that, it invites a quiet disrespect, not overt, but subtle. Because the moment she senses you've made her emotional life your responsibility, the polarity fades. You're no longer the calm she can retreat to. You've become the sponge she squeezes when things fall apart. There's a discipline to Stoic masculinity that isn't about coldness. It's about containment. You can feel compassion without being consumed. You can witness her storm without walking into it. You can be the presence in her life without becoming the furniture in her emotional house. That, right there, is the line most older men cross when they believe support equals intimacy. It doesn't. Support without restraint becomes utility. And no woman, especially one still defining her identity, falls in love with utility. Here's another dangerous shift. It's subtle. She takes a little longer to text back. She teases. She pulls away slightly. And without thinking, you start adjusting. You give more compliments. You ask if she's okay. You change your tone. Make yourself a little softer, more agreeable. You're not chasing her exactly, but you are chasing something. Her reaction, her approval, her smile. And that, once again, is the beginning of the end. A man centered in his purpose doesn't pivot for praise. He doesn't contort for attention. He doesn't second-guess himself just because she took longer than usual to reply. He doesn't double-text, overthink, or fill silences with self-doubt. Because his worth isn't dictated by her mood. His sense of self isn't hanging on whether or not she claps. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own," he was pointing to this exact imbalance. You can't claim strength while begging for reflection. And when an older man who should know better starts placing a young woman's attention above his direction, it's not attraction he earns, it's instability. And instability in a man's energy never creates desire. It only sparks tests, withdrawals, and distance. And yet, many still believe that by being impressive, by curating the perfect date, the sharp outfit, the right words, they'll win her over. But trying to impress her is like handing her a script and asking for applause. It makes her the judge and you the performer. That's not masculinity. That's dependence in a tailored suit. What holds her attention isn't the gesture, it's the man behind it. It's the decisiveness in how he moves. It's the calm with which he says, "Let's meet here," instead of asking what she prefers 5 times. It's the ease in his silence, the comfort in his body, the fact that he could just as easily enjoy the evening alone. That is what imprints on her. Not the flash, not the effort, but the effortless confidence of someone not trying to win, but simply offering a glimpse into a life that doesn't need her to function. You don't earn respect through noise. You earn it through stillness. You don't lead by being louder than the others. You lead by knowing who you are and never blinking first. What many older men also fail to recognize is how dangerous it is to leap ahead emotionally, to take the flirtation, the spark, the moment, and start building futures from it. She's warm to you. She's curious. And within days, you're imagining holidays together, dinners with her family, a second shot at something real. You're rehearsing memories that haven't even been born. And this fantasy, harmless as it seems, is the most dangerous thing of all. Because when you attach too early, you begin seeing her not as she is, but as the character you need her to be. You begin editing reality to preserve a storyline that hasn't even started. You miss red flags. You dismiss contradictions. You explain away the inconsistencies as part of her growth. But no, it's just her being herself, and you being blind. A Stoic doesn't project. He observes. He studies patterns, not possibilities. He watches how she handles stress, discomfort, and silence. He pays attention to how she speaks about people who can't give her anything. He doesn't ask, "Where could this go?" He asks, "Where is it now?" Because wisdom isn't dreaming, it's clarity. When you build castles in your mind, don't be surprised when reality doesn't move in. There's a point in every dynamic where the man begins to sense a shift. It's subtle at first. She stops texting as often. Her tone cools. She still reaches out, but only when she needs something. A favor, an ear, a distraction. And suddenly, without quite noticing, you're no longer in her romantic orbit. You're on the sidelines. You've become what most men fear but rarely admit. The backup option. The emotional filler. The space she visits when the one she wants is absent. This is where self-respecting men get stuck the most, because they confuse their consistency with value. They think, if I just keep being there, she'll see I'm different. She'll realize what I bring to her life. But that's the lie. She already sees it. She sees you're reliable. She sees you're kind. And that's exactly why she keeps you around. Not as a partner, but as a placeholder. She doesn't need to fully invest in you. She just needs to know you won't walk away. And if you don't know who you are, if you've slowly become addicted to the attention she gives only when it suits her, you'll rationalize everything. Her absence? She's just busy. Her hot and cold behavior? She's figuring herself out. But deep down, you know what's happening. She's not choosing you. She's using your steadiness to stay afloat while she chases chaos elsewhere. There's a harsh truth here, one that Stoic philosophy makes painfully clear. A woman doesn't respect the man who is always available. She respects the man who knows when to step back. When Seneca said, "Avoid those who reduce you to half of who you are," he wasn't just talking about enemies. He was talking about anyone, friend, lover, or fantasy, who chips away at your masculine edge until you don't recognize yourself anymore. And you know what happens when you stay too long in that role? You shrink, slowly, quietly. You become agreeable, accommodating, and emotionally overinvested in someone who gives you only fragments in return. You censor your thoughts. You hold back your standards. You tolerate behavior that disgusts you because you're afraid that leaving means losing the only connection you think you have left. But that connection isn't real. It's not intimacy. It's emotional dependency masquerading as hope. And here's the paradox. When you finally walk away from that dynamic, when you pull your energy back and stop trying to be her emotional support system, that's when everything shifts. She may return. She may not. But either way, you've won. Because you reclaimed something far more important than her attention, your masculine clarity. Imagine a man named Paul, in his late 40s, solid, dependable. He meets a younger woman, magnetic, wild, brilliant. They hang out. They talk for hours. There's chemistry. But she never fully commits. She disappears, comes back crying, asks for comfort, gets close, then retreats again. Paul, at first, thinks he's helping, thinks he's building something, until one day she tells him, "You're like my emotional anchor." And that line, meant to sound like a compliment, cuts deeper than she realizes. Because anchors don't move. They stay stuck while the ship sails away. That night, Paul pulls away, not out of bitterness, not out of spite, but from clarity. And months later, when she reaches back out, she feels the change. He's not angry. He's just not available in the same way. He's not her backup plan anymore. He's not waiting for her to realize his value. He knows his worth. And that, ironically, is what makes her take him seriously for the first time. This is the quiet strength of the man who walks. Not to hurt her, but to protect himself. Now, here's another pitfall, where strong men collapse when they begin sacrificing their path to accommodate the fantasy of the woman. It doesn't start with anything major. It starts with a skipped gym session, a delayed business call. A small decision was postponed to make room for her chaos. And then it spreads. Suddenly, you're molding your calendar around her moods. You're moving your focus to keep her interested. You're trading long-term mission for short-term comfort. And this is where good men get weak. Not when they're rejected, but when they're accepted just enough to be distracted. There's a phrase you'll hear often from men who've lost themselves. "I don't know who I was during that time." That's because love without purpose is not devotion, it's self-abandonment. A woman, especially a younger one, doesn't want to be the center of your world, not if she's truly feminine. What she craves is to be part of a world that's already moving, already alive with direction. When you stop leading, she stops admiring. She may not say it, but her energy tells you. You'll feel her distance grow, not because you failed, but because you stopped being the man who was building. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." And that's the measuring stick. If your ambition withers because of her presence, then you've confused love with escape. Masculinity isn't defined by how much you give up. It's defined by how much you hold on to when temptation asks you to surrender. Let's talk about Jordan, mid-40s, high-level executive, driven, respected, intense. He starts dating a woman in her mid-20s. And at first, he holds the frame. He's grounded. She's drawn to his fire. But over time, that fire starts to dim. He moves meetings around to fit her schedule, stops traveling as much, adjusts his goals to make space for the relationship. And she, slowly, begins to pull back. No fights, no betrayal, just that slow fade. Because without realizing it, she watched him step off his mission. And the moment she felt that, she couldn't unsee it. Attraction doesn't die with arguments. It dies with drift. Women don't consciously say, "He's less ambitious, so I'm less into him." But something in them starts searching for the edge again. The polarity disappears. And now, she's not looking at the man she met. She's looking at a version who gave up too soon. A man on a mission is magnetic, even when he's distant. A man who bends to please is forgettable, even when he's always there. And this brings us to one of the biggest lies in modern dating. The idea that women want men who adapt to them, who adjusts, who softens. But here's the truth. They don't want you to bend. They want to feel that you won't. Not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. She may test you. She may get emotional. She may say things that seem contradictory. One day, she wants more attention. The next day, you're too available. But none of that is really about you. It's about her trying to find your edges. It's not manipulation, it's orientation. She wants to know, when I push, where does he stand? And if the answer is, wherever she needs me to, then you're not a man. You're a puppet. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means your emotional walls are real. That you have an internal compass that doesn't spin based on her mood. You can be present. You can be kind. But the moment you start rearranging yourself to suit her storms, she no longer feels safe with you. She feels burdened by you. True polarity comes from structure. Not controlled, not domination, but energy that doesn't waver. When Marcus Aurelius wrote about tranquility, he wasn't describing emptiness. He was describing the silent power of a man who cannot be knocked off center. That's the energy you need when she tests your tone, questions your rhythm, and flirts with your patience. Let me give you a scene. Drew, mid-50s, successful but freshly divorced. He starts seeing a woman in her mid-20s. She's gorgeous, fiery, playful, but also testing. She teases his fashion, flirts in front of him, tries to poke at his confidence. Old Drew would have bought new clothes, cracked more jokes, and tried harder to impress. But this is Drew? He smiles. He leans back, says, "That's cute, but I like the way I move." And that was it. No defense, no reaction, no insult, just presence. 2 days later, she came back, not because he agreed with her, but because he didn't. That's what being the rock looks like. You don't fight her. You don't bend for her. You don't vanish. You just stay still. And when a woman meets stillness that doesn't flinch, especially from a man who's older, wiser, and done playing games, she doesn't forget it. She may not always stay, but she'll always respect it. There's a dangerous belief that lives in the minds of many older men. A belief that says, if I offer enough, my time, my attention, my resources, she'll stay. That belief is poison, because a woman who stays out of obligation never truly wants you. And that's not presence, that's performance. You can't buy desire. You can't purchase genuine interest with dinners, compliments, or emotional labor. Every time you try to earn her attention instead of commanding it, you reinforce the idea that you're not enough without the extras. And she feels it, not through the details, but through the energy. It's not about the money. It's about what the money is compensating for. You become a transaction, a package, something convenient, not compelling. There's a reason some women drift toward certain men who don't chase, don't overoffer, don't seek applause. Those men radiate a different kind of wealth, restraint. They have standards. They don't overextend themselves for someone who hasn't shown value. And that quiet confidence, that subtle dignity, that's what hooks her attention long after the flashy gestures fade. Because the truth is simple. A man who doesn't need her is far more powerful than a man who tries to keep her. This isn't about being cold. It's about being sovereign. It's about walking into a room, into a relationship, with the understanding that your value isn't measured by how much you give away. It's defined by what you protect. And nothing is more attractive to a woman, especially one who lives in a world of instant gratification, than a man who holds something back. A man who values his energy, who knows his time is sacred, who gives only when it's earned. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Don't try to impress her. Don't try to prove your worth. Live it. Embody it. Let it bleed through your posture, your pace, your silence. Let her feel your depth, not because you spilled it all at once, but because you made her earn the invitation into it." And that leads us to one of the biggest mistakes older men make with younger women: giving away too much, too soon. You've lived. You've suffered. You've rebuilt. And within you lives a landscape most younger men haven't even glimpsed. That landscape is powerful and dangerous in the wrong hands. The mistake isn't in having depth. The mistake is in assuming she's ready to hold it. You meet her. She's radiant. She's kind. She seems curious. And suddenly, you open the vault. You share your wounds, your regrets, your philosophy. You let her see the man behind the curtain. Not because she earned it, but because she made you feel seen. But what feels like a connection often ends up overwhelming her. Not because she's cruel, but because depth is a responsibility. You don't hand a Ferrari to someone who just learned to drive. And you don't give your soul to someone who's never carried anything heavier than a compliment. Stoicism teaches restraint not as a way to hide, but as a way to test the world. Who deserves your energy? Who proves they can handle your silence, your values, your storms? That's the real question. It's not about shutting down. It's about staying in your castle long enough to see who knocks and who tries to climb through the windows. Let's take Mark. He's in his 50s. Meets a 29-year-old artist. Brilliant, beautiful, and emotionally curious. On the first few dates, she dives deep, asks about trauma, childhood, and fears. And Mark? He's tempted. He's been waiting for someone to ask, but instead of unloading, he asks her one thing. How do you handle disappointment? And then he watches. He listens, not just to her answer, but to her behavior in the weeks that follow. She gets frustrated. He notices if she blames others or takes accountability. She gets stressed. He notices if she seeks escape or clarity. He waits. And only after she shows integrity, patience, and depth of her own, only then does he begin to open. That's not manipulation. That's masculine discernment. That's what it means to protect your depth like treasure, not toss it like a coupon. Because a woman who earns your story respects it. A woman who receives it too soon forgets it. And here's where everything flips. When you stop trying to be the exception, when you stop performing, buying time, impressing, oversharing, something unexpected happens. You become the frame. You stop chasing. You stop reacting. And the entire dynamic changes. You're no longer one of many. You're the standard by which others are measured. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. A woman may test you. She may pull back. She may try to provoke a reaction. But if you don't move, if you stay calm, centered, and grounded, she begins to feel something rare, not controlled, not intimidation. Safety, structure, gravity. Women don't crave men who bend. They crave men who anchor. And when she meets one who doesn't need her to feel valuable, one who can walk away without bitterness and return without attachment, that man doesn't just stand out. He haunts her. This is what most men never learn in time. They think attraction is about giving. It's not. It's about being. It's about stillness. It's about refusing to shrink, to chase, to perform. And most of all, it's about staying loyal to your mission, no matter how beautiful the distraction. Because when a woman meets a man who won't lose himself for her, she finally feels something she didn't know she was looking for. Someone she can respect. And in a world where most men fold the moment they feel chemistry, you become unforgettable simply by holding the line. If she stays, it's not because you begged. It's because you were complete without her. And if she leaves, it's not a loss. It's a lesson in what you refuse to compromise for the sake of attention. There's a reason ancient Stoics spoke so often of self-possession, of clarity, of standing tall in your truth. Not because it wins you love, but it prevents you from losing yourself in the illusion of it. So if you're an older man, and you find yourself pulled toward youth, toward beauty, toward that intoxicating storm of curiosity and chaos, remember this: you are the mountain. She is the wind. She may howl. She may rage. She may dance around you in 1,000 moods. But the moment you move for her, she forgets why she came to you in the first place. Be the stillness she can't shake. Be the calm she never forgets. Be the rock. And if you must walk away, do it without noise, without bitterness, without hesitation. Not because you didn't care, but because you finally remembered who you are.